2, 1. Hey, welcome to the Stink Truth Podcast. I'm on remote. I'm on the road. Myself, Mark Schlereth, alongside my partner, Mike Evans. Thank you so much for being with us and downloading and doing all the things that you do. Mike, how are you, buddy?
I am good. Good. How are you? You're still in D.C. after calling Commanders and Dolphins.
Yeah. Well, when it rains in D.C., they pretty much shut down Reagan. So there was no getting out last night. So, I mean, I spent probably an hour on the phone trying to find a different way out of this area because it was kind of raining and fogged and socked in a little bit. And eventually I just gave up and went back to the hotel because my room was still here and hunkered down, watched the Eagles. Thank goodness, man. Thank goodness, Mike, the Eagles played at home. Otherwise, that'd have been a real ass kicking. Oh, man. Yeah, Philly, I told you so. So
yeah, listen.
I tell you so.
I give you a lot of grief about your unabashed San Francisco love, Shanahan love. It's not a San Francisco love; it's a Shanahan love. But got to give you your props, man. That was special, man. That was impressive. That was impressive, and you saw it coming.
Yeah. Well,
why were you so confident? Why were you so confident that this kind of result would occur?
I just have watched enough San Francisco to know how well coached they are, how good they are. You know how their team just really fits, and they're really they lost a couple of games there without Deebo Samuel. They lost a couple of games along the way where they had some injuries. I know Christian McCaffrey at one point pulled his oblique a little bit, so they had a faltering there where they weren't getting very many sacks. The defense wasn't creating. But they addressed those things. They adjusted those things. They got some players healthy, and they're just outstanding. I still think Kyle Shanahan is one of the best, if not the best, play caller in football. And just the balance that they have and the physicality with which they play really takes a ton of pressure off their quarterback. So, and let's face it, Philadelphia, and I still think, I give Philly a lot of grief because they throw grief at me, but I still think that Philly's a really good football team, and that's not indicative of that's not indicative of their football team what happened last night. But of course, don't take my word for it. I'm obviously biased, so they probably suck. Anyhow, but that's just me. Yeah, but I just think San Francisco is really playing well, and I think Brock Purdy is outstanding. And I just think the way they mesh their run game with their play action, everything is married so perfectly. It all looks the same, and it's more than that. It's the way they mesh their outside zone with their gap scheme, so they can make an outside zone on the backside of an outside zone. The way they run that block. The way they run that combination block on the backside, kind of scooping up to the linebacker, looks identical to the way they run power on the front side and pull a guard around the opposite way. So they've not only been able to marry their play action concepts together, but they've been able to marry their runs together from gap to zone stuff and make it look identical. And so you end up playing not trying just to defeat a block, but you end up trying to play against kind of a scheme, if you will, right? And so you're defending, everything looks like the same scheme, if you will. And so now you're defending what you thought was a cutoff block on the backside, and it becomes a double team on the front side, but it looks the same and feels the same to you as a defensive player. And I think they're probably better at that than anybody in football. Miami is also, obviously, with Mike McDaniel being, on that staff forever. Miami does that exceptionally well also. So I think those two teams are probably the best in the business at marrying their play action to their run game, but really marrying their zone scheme runs to their gap scheme runs and making them feel to the defense like they're identical.
Is there any reason to think that it'll be a different result if these two teams meet again? You've got Philadelphia right now at 10-2, so there's still a game ahead of the 49ers. So it's a very real possibility that these two could meet again in Philadelphia again. What what would you tell Philadelphia fan? Hey, if you guys are better at this, it'll be a different result.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, obviously, you've got to tackle better, and you can't give up. And this is what San Francisco does so exceptionally well. Um, they do such a great job of creating explosive plays off their play action game, and I would almost tell you, Mike, that it's probably better to let them gain 5 or 6 yards of carry in the run game and give that up. And basically, because you got to kind of pick your poison, right? It's the old Belichick, hey man, I'm going to take this guy out of the offense. I'm going to make you play left-handed. Um, it's so counterintuitive to what most organizations do. Everybody says, hey, we got to shut down the run and make you one-dimensional. And I'm almost feeling like this kind of Fangio effect. Vic Fangio has had an effect on the way everybody plays defense in this league, but it's almost like, here's what we'll let you do. We'll let you carry for 6 yards of carry. And then when we get into the red zone, now we'll tighten up and we'll play great red zone defense and we'll shut you down and make you kick field goals. And so it's almost one of those things you cannot allow the Debo Samuels of the world or the Kittles of the world or even McCaffreys of the world to catch something that's thrown 4 yards in the air and take it 32 yards for a touchdown. Like, that's what you can't allow. But they do such a good job of marrying that play action together and getting you to really commit to doing that, and then they get you over the top. So that's just kind of the way they operate, and completely different from Miami. It just throws it over your freaking head because everybody on their team can outrun you. Like that, it's different than what Miami gets you with. San Francisco really gets you with you overcommitting to some of their run stuff and then getting you in the back end.
Final thought on the 49ers, because right now they look like the best team in the NFL. Assuming they have good health, what's their weakness? What's their potential Achilles heel?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mike. I would probably say defensively, it's their back end, and I still think they're really good on the back end. But I would say that that's probably, when I think of their front seven, I think of the way their linebackers run. I think about the way they have, 7, 8 guys that they can rotate in on the pass rush. I think they're really good there. Um, the other thing I would tell you is I think that, and easier said than done. I think if you can get them into a drop back game where their quarterback has to drop back, I don't think from piece to piece, I don't think they're great up front. I mean, Trent Williams is one of the greatest players I've ever watched play at any position. He is that good. But I don't think their pieces are necessarily the best in the National Football League. I think when you combine their pieces, they're a really good offensive front. And they're a good offensive front because of the way they call plays, the way they operate, the way they execute. They're smart. They're really good at all that stuff. But if you can get them into a drop back game where they have got to pass protect and they're in a bunch of 3rd and 7 pluses, that's where I think you have an advantage because I think you can get after the quarterback. I think you can get them and you can dominate them up front if you can get them in that game. If you allow them to operate in 2nd down and 6 minus, in 3rd down and 4 minus, you're screwed because they are so evenly layered and they run so many things. They've got by far the best 2nd down and long run game in football. And they'll hit you, they'll get a favorable front or a favorable number count on 2nd down and 9, and they'll pop one for 7 yards. And now we're right back into 3rd down and 2. And they're so good, you just can't defend them that way. So you've got to be able to get them into a drop back game. If you get them into a drop back game, then you take the threat of play action away. Then you have a chance to beat them, and you have a chance to get to the quarterback.
You mentioned that you watched the Sunday night game. Am I making too big of a leap here by saying Favre to Rodgers to Jordan Love?
Um,
I know, but that kid is Not only is that kid balling right now, but actually they did some nice graphics during the broadcast yesterday that showed that Love is on the same exact pace that Rodgers was
Yeah.
at these different spots of their careers.
I've been saying it since last year that I thought Love was going to take over and play really well. And I talked to him last year. I did a game in Chicago. Now, Rodgers was still the quarterback, but I ended up talking to him in Chicago on the field pregame. I've got piano playing in the background now. It's really beautiful here, Mike. I don't know if you can hear that, but
maybe you might want to break into a little Piano Man.
I'm telling you what, that's baby. Hey, what did I say? That's baby making music right there. That is beautiful. But I ended up talking to him on the field because I went back as I was preparing for the game, and I went back and just studied some games he played in early versus the game he played in last year, and just watched the grasp of what he was doing and his knowledge of the game, and you could just tell that he had grown tremendously. And I think if you sat him down and talked to him about the influence Rodgers has had on him, and the influence, Rodgers basically pushed is not the right word, but encouraged him to really take practice more seriously and to really start doing that. And I tell you what, there's been a big difference in what he's done this last 3 or 4 games, 5 games of the season, man. He's been pretty special. And again, last night over Kansas City, again, really, really good stuff. We said it last week that, like, pay attention. Here comes Green Bay. The Packers are on their way, and they're going to be, I don't know that they chase down Detroit, but they're going to be a playoff team.
Yep. Level of concern right now over the Chiefs. Something doesn't feel right there.
Too much Taylor Swift. You can't. She is. She's like Cliff Richard. She's just a devil woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the Chiefs. Is she the Chiefs Yoko?
Yes. Yeah. She is the Chiefs Yoko. Can you say that? I don't.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Why not? Okay. Yeah. It's like you're right. There's something askew there, and you keep waiting for one of these or a couple of these receivers to kind of take over and really help this offense kind of achieve that dynamic nature that it's always seemed to have, and it really just hasn't. And Travis Kelce, like, he takes over games occasionally, but it doesn't feel like he can take over a game like he used to take over a game, kind of almost at will. It's the old what's the Toby Keith song? I'm good as I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm good once as I ever was, right? But those onces only come every 4 weeks. And that's tough as you age as a player. Just the totality of the season takes it takes its toll on you and your body. And so I don't know, they just don't seem to have that same dynamic nature or that ability that when they really need a play, they can make that play. So yeah, I'm concerned about the Kansas City. Well, am I concerned about the Kansas City Chiefs? No, I'm not. They've won championships and they've done all that stuff. And so, but if you're a Chiefs fan, would I be concerned? Yeah. If you're, our buddy Nick Wright, who is the lover of all things Chiefs, should he be concerned? Yeah, he should be concerned.
Another big game for Dak Prescott in the Thursday night win over Seattle, a little closer than expected game, of course, but still he was terrific. Is Dak your front runner for MVP? And if not, who is?
Okay, well, I think Dak is obviously in that conversation. I think CJ Stroud has got to be in that conversation, not only as Rookie of the Year, but what he's been able to do in Houston, a franchise essentially left for dead as a rookie. Tua's been remarkable, but my hatred of all things quarterback in general, right? You mean they're not really football players. They should have their own little quarterbacking award. They probably do. They probably have their own little, remember when they split off and made the quarterback club? pompous, arrogant turds, right? Like we don't. Hey, the rest of you guys, we don't want you to get in on our money. We're the quarterback club, right? All those. There's my boy Elway and Marino and all those guys. They just split off from the rest of us, because we can make more money without you guys. Well, don't you already make more money without us? Anyhow,
Ooh.
so I've never really liked quarterbacks from that standpoint. What about I did the Miami game? What about Tyreek Hill?
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill has got he is on pace to go over 2,000 yards. Now I know that that Megatron just missed out at 1,900 and change, but he did that in 16 games. This is a 17 game schedule, but Tyreek Hill has a legitimate opportunity to go over 2,000 yards. And every time you play the Miami Dolphins, your number one objective offensively is to take number 10 out of the ball game. And you know what nobody's been able to do? Take number 10 out of the ball game. I think right now he's got 8 games over 100 yards maybe on the season. He is flat out incredible. And I have probably talked to 7 different defensive coordinators over the last 2 years. And I talked to both Ron Rivera. I talked to Cody Barton from the Washington Commanders. I talked to a lot of people about Tyreek Hill, and everybody has said the same thing to me. As fast as he looks on film, and he looks fast on film, he is the fastest player I have ever seen in pads. The fastest player I've ever seen in pads. Like, you put pads on him, and he just is another gear. And I mean, he got over the top of Washington's defense. Their whole game plan was, we're going to try to keep people underneath and trail and keep somebody over the top at all times, and we're not going to let him beat us over the top. And when we play man, we're going to play with depth, and he's not getting over the top. And hell, the first third down of the game, he went 78. He was 5 yards behind, and he went, and just shoo. The guy's incredible. So I am all for this, of putting real football players in the MVP discussion as opposed to quarterbacks. I think real football players should get to be in that discussion. So let me just say that I'm putting Tyreek Hill in that discussion.
Although this is quite an admission for you, because I know that most of the time you don't even like acknowledging receivers as real football players. So this is a big statement from you.
Yeah, that's normally, you are correct. Normally I don't like to do that. There's a few guys that I lift the restrictions on and let them slide under the red ropes.
Yeah.
I invite them into the gala, if you will. But dude, he's just again, he's a dude that everybody has a game plan for. It's kind of like the Mike Tyson thing. Like, everybody has a plan until I punch him in the face, right? It's kind of that thing.
The Detroit Lions, their last 4 games, they've averaged 38, or they've allowed, the last 4 games, they've allowed 38, 26, 29, and 28 points.
Yeah.
Is that a big red flag for them with the playoffs looming?
Sure. Yeah. I think when you look at Detroit, they're, a blue collar, and this is a compliment. They're a real blue collar team. And I think they're a blue collar team with incredible offensive talent. Like, they make plays on the offensive side of the ball. I think you can make a very compelling argument that Detroit defensively is, from a pure talent standpoint, Mike, they're middle of the pack. And maybe top of the bottom third of the pack from just a pure talent standpoint. And I'm not being derogatory. I'm just telling you kind of what they are. Aiden Hutchinson is a very talented player. But that he's the one dude that you say, hey man, we got to take that guy out of the game plan. And ultimately, like, Alex Anzalone is a really, really good player. What's the kid? McNeil in the inside, good player. They've got Tracy Walker at the safety position, is a good player. They have got good players, but ultimately there's not one guy other than Aiden Hutchinson that gives you pause as an offense. And I always think about it this way: is when you play offense and you game plan as an offense, there are certain guys on a defense that you look at and say, okay, we break the huddle, bam, we got to find that guy, and we have to have a plan for that guy at all times. Now, one dude like Aiden Hutchinson, it's pretty easy. Like, all right, we're gonna slide to him. We're gonna, we're gonna chip him. We're gonna line a tight end over there. We're gonna use the tools at our disposal to take him out of the game because ultimately we feel like we're pretty confident going one on one with everybody else across the board. Now, when you start adding 2 guys and 3 guys, that's when it gets tricky because then you've got to pick, who's going to wear the hat. Like, hey, one of you guys is going to have to hold up on a dude, right? One of you guys is going to have to hold up on a guy. And now we're going to try to change that hat every play. So we still take out the top dude, but every play we try to get a double team somewhere else just to be fair, just to take some of the onus off your offense. But when you really only have one dude that you're concerned about, life is pretty simple. Yeah, it's pretty easy. And I think, and I'm not like people in Detroit are going to be like they get pissed at me and say, "Hey, man, that's not right." But I'm 100% right. Like they have, and they played. Let me just preface this by saying, Dan Campbell has them playing. They play hard. They play aggressive. They are tough. Like their corners will tackle. Um, I don't have any issues at all with the way they play. But if you're honest, and if they're honest, they'll sit there and tell you we're not the most talented football team, especially on the defensive side. On the defensive side, I think offensively they're very talented. Defensively, I think they're limited talent wise.
Broncos certainly lived on the edge even while they were winning 5 in a row.
Yeah.
The loss to Houston, does that just shows how razor thin their margin for error and mistakes are.
Yeah, it really does. I think that you look at them, Mike, and they're not good enough to turn the ball over. They're not good enough to take a penalty. They're just not good enough to do all those things. And I think ultimately in the world of parity that we live, I think that's most teams.
Yeah.
Most teams are just not good enough to overcome a few mistakes here and there. Now, there are some teams that are good enough to walk in with some swagger. And, I think right now, a team like Miami, has a minus turnover differential, and they're sitting at 9-3. I think they were -4 or something going into the game yesterday against Washington, and still 9-3. Like they're incredible. San Francisco's got that kind of swag. Beyond that, like I don't know that there are any other teams. Maybe Baltimore that can overcome mistakes and still win. Philadelphia, obviously, until last night. Philadelphia against everybody else can have a few mistakes and still overcome that. Not against the best team in football, they can't, but against everybody else who's kind of fair to Midland, yeah, they can overcome those mistakes. But there's very few teams that don't operate on a razor thin edge when it comes to mistakes and how mistakes will cost them football games.
I want to give a shout out to a couple teams that I think quietly have really exceeded expectations and have played themselves up into a situation where right now they're in the playoffs. And I'll let you take each one, whichever one you want, but the Rams and the Colts.
Yeah, amazing. I would say with the Colts, let's start there. The value of paying a backup quarterback that can play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many teams right now? Hey, Joe Flacco came off the couch to start a game in Cleveland. How's that working for you? And that was, and I agree with Cleveland, that was their best option to win. Gardner Minshew is a damn good football player. And every time he lines up, he gives you an opportunity. Now, again, the margins are thin, but he gives you an opportunity to win. He's going to make throws, and he's a smart kid, and he knows what he's doing. So, like the value of a backup quarterback that can really play. And then, in regards to the Rams, I haven't done a Rams game this year, but they are when they have balance. And Sean McVay got so much run and there was so much excitement about the passing game there, but they were a hard-nosed, hit you in the mouth football team that was disguised as a spread, throw it all over the ball yard team. They've got guys like Cooper Kupp. What's the other guy's name? Puka Nakua, Akuna Matata, whatever his name is. They got receivers that'll get involved in the run game, that are physical, that they got a bunch of football players with the Rams. And you're 100% right, Mike. They have really kind of pulled themselves off the off the scrap pile and really started playing well down the stretch here.
Yes, that would be Puka Nakua.
Yeah, Puka Nakua. Akuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase. Yeah, I love that guy. I love that kid. He's a BYU kid, Ma.
Yeah, so it's a fascinating look right now. What's going on right now? We've got some fun playoff races. Teams trying to hang on. Teams making a push. It's going to be a wild last few weeks as we head down the final 5 weeks of the season.
It's gonna be awesome. There's no question about it. It's great, a great time of the year. Obviously, this is where you separate yourself. So we'll see exactly how that happens these last 5 games. All right, Mike. Hey, listen, for everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth podcast, live from DC, that's me, Mike Evans.
Piano playing.
Piano playing in the background. It's beautiful here in the lobby of the Salamander. I highly suggest you check it out. All right, we'll be back with you guys later on in the week.
Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth, we thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. If you want to see more of our videos, you can also be sure to check out our playlist. Let us know exactly what you think in the comments below. We appreciate you guys so much for being a part of that.
Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.